Today we'll be talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. My name is Luke Schumacher. I'm a registered nurse at St. Mary's Essential Health in Duluth, Minnesota. So today our objectives will be to describe and differentiate the levels of needs, state how Maslow's hierarchy is applied to nursing, state the relevance of Maslow's hierarchy to nursing practice, and then we'll have a critique and a summary.
So Abraham Maslow, a little bit of his background. He was born April 1st, 1908 in Brooklyn, New York. He was the oldest of 7 children, and his childhood was spent most of the time in the library trying to get away from some of his family life because it was pretty rough. At first he thought that he was going to be a philosopher, but later decided to be a psychologist. He married his first cousin and had multiple health issues, heart health issues, later on, and ended up being hospitalized, and his own close encounters with death actually are what impacted his outlook on life and self-actualization. He later died June 8th, 1970, while jogging. He actually died of a heart attack. His educational experience, he kind of got bounced around a lot due to multiple different reasons. He went to the City College of New York and studied law, figured out that wasn't for him. Later went to the University of Wisconsin, and then he got his Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology in 1930, went back for his Master's of Arts degree in Psychology in 1931, and got his PhD in 1934. So Maslow's research was unique in that he studied psychology of health, which was quite a bit different thinking from Freud or those other classics that we know of that studied the mental disabilities, and Maslow really wanted to study healthy people. He also studied human sexuality and human psychology. So here's Maslow's triangle. Some of my research, I can't remember where it came from in my readings, said that Maslow didn't actually organize this in a triangle. It was actually a textbook, a company that decided to make this into a triangle just to promote learning. However, I haven't been able to find that again, so I don't know if that's truly accurate. But this is the classic Maslow's triangle. And the theory is based on the idea that some needs, physical as well as psychological, take precedence over others. The needs are placed in this pyramid, with the most important making the base, this physiological, and self-actualization being the peak. Maslow states that if the basic needs are not met, the base of the pyramid is not formed and the rest of the needs cannot be achieved. The first level of the needs are the deficiency needs, and if these needs are not met, they cause that deficiency or lack of motivation for a person, and this causes a person to strive to achieve the need. The fifth level is the actualization level, and that's considered the growth level. Now, few people ever actually reach this growth level and spend their lives going up and down the pyramid, meeting the lower levels, but not actually get into self-actualization.
So the most basic need are the biological and physical needs. These are at the bottom of the triangle. These are the basic requirements for human physical survival. They are things like air, food, water, shelter, sleep, sex, and anything to promote homeostasis. These must be met before proceeding to higher needs. So once we have met our physiological needs, we can begin to move on to our safety needs. And these include the need for a sense of security. Security in a person's environment, in their employment, with their resources, health, and property. Maslow did believe that the inadequate fulfillment of these needs might explain neurotic behaviors and other emotional problems that some people may experience. So once we have met our physiological and safety needs, we can then move on to the belongingness and love needs. These needs include longing for an intimate relationship in both giving and receiving love, as well as the acceptance of others to belong. The next level on the pyramid is esteem. And remember, esteem is now a being need, so it's driven by one's desire for personal growth. And it goes further than just survival. Some of these needs include achievement of mastery, independence, prestige, managerial responsibility, confidence, and respect. Maslow believed that the most steady source of self-esteem is genuine accomplishment rather than public acclaim or praise. So the next level and the highest level is the self-actualization. This is the highest level on the pyramid, and it is the development of one's full potential. So self-actualization includes the realization of self-fulfillment, pursuing personal growth, and seeking peak experiences. So peak experiences are one of the phrases that Maslow used quite often, and the definition is an awe-inspiring emotional experience characterized by a sense of timelessness, unity, and wonder. So the way Maslow studied self-actualization is he took people who he thought achieved their full potential, like Abraham Lincoln and Albert Einstein, and did a bunch of reading and came up with a list of characteristics of what somebody who is self-actualized would have. And these include things like perceiving reality efficiently and can tolerate uncertainty. They can accept themselves for what they are. They're spontaneous in their thoughts and actions. They are problem-centered and not self-centered. They usually have a good sense of humor, able to look at life objectively. These people are highly creative and concerned for the welfare of humanity. And they're also capable of deep appreciation of basic life experience. These people establish deep, satisfying interpersonal relationships with a few people. They have multiple peak experiences. They also have a need for privacy, democratic attitudes, and strong moral and ethical standards. Maslow also lists behavior leading to self-actualization. Some of these include things like experiencing life as a child, trying new things instead of sticking to the same path, listening to your own feelings, taking responsibility for actions and working hard, as well as being prepared to be unpopular if your views are not the same as others. So examples of people that are self-actualized would be people like Abraham Lincoln, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mother Teresa, and Albert Einstein. Now there is a problem with Maslow's self-actualization. For instance, Rembrandt and Van Gogh. These people were highly self-actualized, but had a constant struggle maintaining their basic needs because of the poverty they lived in. This is one of the criticisms that I have been reading about with Maslow's hierarchy. Now, Maslow does state some steps to help a person achieve self-actualization. The first one that he states is be authentic and aware of your inner feelings. The second one, transcend your cultural conditioning and be a citizen of the world. And help yourself discover your true vocation in life. Also, teach yourself to realize that life is precious and worth living, and that there are joys to be experienced in life. So here's self-transcendence. This was probably never really taught in most of our nursing classes. It actually goes above self-actualization. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's actually some other steps in between the physiological and the self-actualization. And then this one now, of course, is above self-actualization. So this is self-transcended person would be looking at the greater good of everyone rather than just their self. And a big characteristics of somebody who's self-transcended would be that they're helping others achieve self-actualization. And you can see down there in the corner I have the little picture of the cat looking into the mirror, and he sees himself as a lion. And here I have a little quote too: if you plan on being anything less than you are capable of being, you will probably be unhappy all the days of your life. So in general, Maslow's hierarchy basically says that in order to achieve the higher goals, you need to first meet the basic needs. So we already just went through all this, so if you need a refresher, you can look back at the outline that I've provided. Also, self-actualization is the greatest goal for a person, and multiple life experiences are required. And if you remember the peak experiences, which are awe-inspiring emotional experience characterized by a sense of timelessness, unity, and wonder, Maslow also believed that self-actualized people needed multiple experiences, especially peak experiences, to be self-actualized. Maslow also believed that less than 2% of the people actually achieve self-actualization. So in the simplicity of this model, really is quite simple and easy to understand. With the basic needs being at the bottom, and you can't move until you accomplish those basic needs. It's when you start getting up towards the top and with the growth and self-actualization is where this really becomes quite a bit more difficult.
So how does Maslow's hierarchy of needs apply to our nursing practice? First, the theory focuses on human potential and it gives hope a chance. The theory also allows the nurse to highlight the person's strengths instead of focusing on their deficits. Basic needs such as air, food, drink, and warmth, shelter, all of those are the basic needs of human survival and health. And safety, which obviously is a very important part of, or a very important feeling while being in the hospital. Whether it be safety with walking a person or giving them the right medication. It's very important to nursing. Now the social needs can be met in a hospital setting or other nursing settings by just giving visiting hours, and through the nurse-patient caregiver relationship. Now, esteem and self-actualization are quite a bit tougher, and they may or may not actually be met in a hospital setting. And as we talked about earlier, self-actualization and being a growth process, and it's easily understood why that probably is not going to happen in a hospital setting, or at least an acute setting. Probably the biggest thing, especially that McEwen and Willis says, is that the theory provides the blueprint for prioritizing patient care according to the hierarchy of needs.
So according to our textbook, Maslow's hierarchy of needs does have some relevancy in nursing. It helps us to concentrate on persons' strengths rather than their deficits. It provides hope by focusing on human potential, and it provides a framework for us to prioritize patients' care. A lot of times too in nursing, it's really hard to concentrate on a person's strengths rather than deficits, just because most of the time when they're in the hospital or in a public health setting, the deficits are always so clear and so easy for us to see that sometimes this is a good thing for us to remember, is to use Maslow's to help concentrate on their strengths. Probably the most useful way that we use it is just prioritizing our patient care, starting at the most basic physiological needs and moving up. Obviously, we're not going to help somebody obtain self-actualization because that's a personal growth process, and it's unrealistic for us to be able to provide that kind of care in a hospital setting. So, to critique the usefulness and the limitations of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of the biggest critiques is that self-actualization is highly objective, and self-actualization in itself scientifically is very hard to actually define. Also, there's a lot of cultural differences, and Schmoody says that Maslow's hierarchy of needs reflects the values of 20th century Western middle class males. It is not cultural neutral and therefore not universally applicable to all periods of human history or to all contemporary societies. Furthermore, there's no explanation for those that put themselves in dangers to help another. There's also no explanation for the starving artist or the person who gives up food and drink in deference to their art. The hierarchical order is very different from person to person. Okay, so additional to this presentation, there is a YouTube video that I was unable to get loaded into this video, so I will put that in the blog section that's part of this presentation. There's also, I found some cool things to see how self-actualized we all are, and that will be posted in the blog section as well. So in summary, Maslow represents a unique outline of needs to help care for people, manage people, or even educate people. It is imperative to be cognitive of individual perceived needs, promote personal growth, and help seek peak experiences. Maslow definitely has a place in nursing, and it's just important that we use it as we see fit. One of Maslow's famous quotes is, "What a man can be, he must be." So in an interview that Maslow had, I believe this was in 1968, this is a pretty famous piece of that interview. He said, "I had a vision of a peace table with people sitting around it, talking about human nature and hatred, war and peace, and brotherhood. I was too old to go into the army. It was at that moment I realized that the rest of my life must be devoted to discovering a psychology for the peace table. That moment changed my whole life. Since then, I have devoted myself to developing a theory of human nature that could be tested by experiment and research. I wanted to prove that humans are capable of something grander than war, prejudice, and hatred. I wanted to make science consider all the people the best specimen of mankind I would find. I found that many of them reported having something like mystical experiences." Abraham Maslow. And here's a list of my references, and if you guys have any questions, please post on my blog, and I'll get those answered as thoroughly as I can. Thank you.